privileges and obligations of citizens is civics. That's the definition. The study of the rights and responsibilities of citizenship, that's what Access News is all about. Don't know much about Congress or the Bill of Rights? You're not alone. We, the people, struggle every day with the balance of power. We, the people, have the power to say what role our government should play in our lives. We live in a representative democracy, known as a republic, meaning we elect the people to represent our interests in government. Should we leave this to someone else? How can we make informed decisions on the big issues? Issues like, who do we want to represent us in government? Immigration, the Mideast, and even back-end parking. Thomas Jefferson, author of the Declaration of Independence, said, "I know of no safe depository of the ultimate powers of the society but the people themselves. And if we think them not enlightened enough to exercise their control with a wholesome discretion, the remedy is not to take it away from them, but to inform their discretion." Now that means the power of society rests with us. Even if we, the people, don't understand the power entrusted to us, the answer is to educate us so that we can make more informed, better decisions. When we talk about our obligations and privileges as citizens and our civil responsibilities, what do we mean? What does it take to be a better citizen? What is civic engagement? Stay with us and get ready to engage. Access News encourages us to become more knowledgeable about our government. This is civic engagement. Today, our guest, Chuck Courtney, Associate Director of the Annette Strauss Institute for Civic Participation at the University of Texas, will discuss with us what it means to be civic-minded. Welcome to Access News.
Well, thank you, Tamara. It's my honor and great pleasure to be here today with you.
Annette Strauss was known as a humanitarian and a philanthropist and a politician, as well as the mayor of Dallas. Can you tell us, what does it mean to become civic-minded?
It means to become engaged and involved in your community, to look for those issues that you can make a difference about, and to find solutions, and then to take action on those.
Speaking of taking action, I know that there are people out there that will vote in the national election but not get involved locally. So what's the difference between national and local civic engagement?
I think nationally the focus is more a broader appeal to individuals, and people tend to overlook their local communities, which they should not, and this focus mainly on what is on the news media for that day. And for that month and for that whole election cycle.
I can imagine a lot of people choose not to vote on the local level, probably because they feel overwhelmed, or maybe they don't have a good understanding of the major issues. What would you say to those people?
I believe that they should look more around in their local communities to identify those issues and problems that are important to them. You mentioned that people vote in the national elections and not the local elections, but really, and we focus a lot at the Institute on young people. And the statistics tell us that among 18 to 29-year-olds, about a quarter voted in the national elections. in the last general election. And here in Texas, the number is even less. It's 18%.
Can you explain why there may be a difference for Texas? Why would Texas have a lower percentage?
I think, I'm not quite sure what the answer might be to that. I think it's maybe the instruction we receive in our public school system is we are not as focused on service to the community like we maybe should be.
Okay, going back to the point you made about the statistics, about a quarter of young people you mentioned voted. Is that number improving, or is the statistic stable, or what would you say?
It's pretty stable over the last several decades, but we saw a spike, of course, during the presidential election in 2008.
For Obama, right? Yeah, very
Right.
popular among the young people.
Got very much involved in the election process.
Do you think that social media has a role in that? Because I know that Obama really utilized the internet for his campaign, like Twitter and Facebook. Do you think that that really makes a difference?
I think it does. I think the social media, when you look at young people today, they're focused more on the social media for their news gathering. Know very few people, in fact, they get their information from newspapers, and they get their information from Twitter and social media and Facebook. In fact, I have two young sons that one reads, not young, actually 22 and 27, but the 27-year-old gets his information from the Statesman, but from the online version and not from the hard copy. And the youngest, basically from Facebook, his friends, and other social media.
I know that I rely a lot on those websites for information, I'll admit, but any of your current projects that you're working on, do they relate to social media in any way?
Many do. We have, the Strauss Institute is an organized research unit of the University of Texas in Austin. We're under the College of Communication. And so we look at how people communicate, and particularly about political and civic engagement issues. And so we have also, we encourage graduate research students to investigate through scholarships and through contests. And we've done several research projects on the impact of social media at the Texas legislature, for example, or in other venues, political venues.
Okay, now let's go back. Let's talk a little bit about the history and our founding fathers. Our founding fathers really believed that a republic was fragile, and it depended a lot on our citizens to be engaged. So on that topic, what makes us good citizens? What makes us more engaged, or what motivates us to get more engaged?
I think that the motivation is that as Americans, we are a compassionate people, and we do recognize when individuals do need help in various different forms. Also, if you look back at the founding of our country, Alex de Tocqueville, in fact, the great writer, when he explored the American frontier in the 1830s, I believe it was, noticed that Americans came together in associations and societies and in groups to raise barns, to build churches, to build schools. And so I think it's always been a part of our heritage to become involved in the local community and to help one another.
Okay, and speaking of working in the community, you have a film under the American Trustees Project.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that film?
I'd be glad to. The film is about Barbara Brown, a young lady from Victoria, Texas, that took notice that her father, actually, and other farmers in the rural areas were actually disposing of their used oil just on the ground and affecting the watershed. And so she and two other young ladies came together with a solution. And so the film actually shows what their solution is and how they took action to implement that solution.
Yeah, let's watch a little bit.
Great.
I think being a good citizen means taking care of the things that have been given to you, making life better for not only yourself, but all of those people around you. I'm 18 years old, and of a family of 6 in rural Victoria County. Don't Be Crude started out as a 4-H project for myself and 2 friends, Kate Klinkerman and Lacey Jones. Before we started this program, farmers would just take their used motor fluids and hydraulic fluids and dump them on fence posts or alongside a barn to kill bugs or to kill weeds. And so they were just using it as a herbicide or insecticide. It was something that we had seen our fathers do. We had all seen our fathers dump oil. It was something that they told us they did because their fathers did it. I think the part that worried Kate and Lacey and I the most was when we were told that by dumping oil that it can affect your groundwater. Dumping used motor fluid or hydraulic fluid on the ground contaminates your water resources. A gallon of dumped oil can pollute over 250,000 gallons of water, which is enough water to supply a small city for one day. We live in a predominantly agricultural area. We drink the water under our own land, as well as water our plants with that water and feed and water animals with that same water source. When we first started talking to people about Don't Be Crude and about the prospect of recycling used oil, the first response was, they're kids, what do they know?
I remember when they came to Commissioner's Court and presented this to us, and like I said, we were very skeptical at first. We thought that this could be dump sites for other things other than what they wanted it to be used for.
When you walk into Commissioner's Court, you walk in through these huge, heavy wooden doors. We were anxious, we were nervous, we were scared. They sit up at the front behind, their big desks. All of these people, we charge of everything. It was a struggle to convince people who are older that we knew what we were talking about and that we had researched this, and this was something that really meant a lot to us. We started with 5 sites here in Victoria County. Now we are in 7 counties with 19 sites. We recycle on a yearly basis about 50,000 gallons of used motor fluid and hydraulic fluid. We are now collecting used oil filters, and we protect over 500 miles of coastline and over 680 square acres of groundwater.
Wow, that's a really good example of civic involvement.
Thank you, Tamara. It is an excellent example because it illustrates a young person recognizing a problem in their local community, developing a solution, and then taking action by taking it to the Commissioner's Court for implementation.
I'm curious how you met Barbara. Where did you find her?
Actually, our educational development outreach person heard about her story and took the trip to South Texas to interview her.
Wow, I'm curious about your other projects. Can you tell us a little bit more about the Tech Select and maybe the Speak Up, Speak Out project as well?
It'd be my pleasure. First off, the American Trustees actually has 12 videos, and each one has a lesson and a curriculum tied to it for teachers. We use these in the public education system, and so there's a curriculum for the teachers. Speak Up, Speak Out is exactly the same. We encourage high school students in this instance to actually identify a program. They're divided into teams, and teachers work with an established curriculum and are supported by college mentors that go to the actual classrooms. And they divide into teams. Then they identify problems in their local communities. They develop solutions, and then they develop what we call solution stations and have an oral argument before a panel of judges in a competition, which is much like a science fair, but we call it a civics fair.
Oh, that sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah. You also mentioned TexElects, and TexElects is a program that is aimed at middle school and also high school, and it happens every 4 years during the general election, in which students are encouraged all across the state of Texas to develop educational posters, essays, PSAs, and website to encourage their parents to register and voters to get out there and vote.
That sounds like a really great opportunity for young people to get involved in civics and become more aware. Now, there are 3 areas that your institute focuses: research, education, and engagement. What kind of work have you done so far related to research?
Well, since the Institute is part of the University of Texas at Austin, we have faculty and faculty fellows that are part of the Institute, and that research is done on exactly why people do get engaged, the communication of the political experience, different ways in which engagement is expressed in the media. So there's that whole research aspect. There's also the educational outreach, which we talked about, the different programs, and also the engagement, where we actually encourage young people to get involved. One program which we have for undergraduates is called the New Politics Forum, where we bring in experts on campaigns, for example, elections, and the students learn from those experts. Campaign Boot Camp is a very popular New Politics Forum event in which they actually divide up into teams once again and run their own campaigns after listening to how money is raised, how message is crafted, how supporters and grassroots are lined up.
So those young students really benefit from those programs. Now, also I understand that one of your slogans is creating more voters and better citizens. What does it mean to be a better citizen? And what does it mean to make more voters? Is that a good thing or is that a bad thing?
Oh, it's an excellent thing to do. More voters. We also have a program called UT Votes, which is aimed at the UT campus, which is a get out the vote. It registers students to vote and encourages them through seminars and through other activities to actually participate in the political process. Better Citizens, I think, is all of our educational programs in which we encourage people to become aware of their community, to get involved, to become engaged, to identify those issues that are important to them, and as Barbara Brown, come up with solutions and actually take action on them by going to governments, to the government to actually do final implementation.
Can you tell me about some of the projects that your students have been involved in?
Well, from the New Politics Forum, our students, the alumni have gone on and worked in campaigns, became chief of staffs for state office holders and actually even federal office holders, like senators and state representatives. And several are very well-known consultants in social media and have gone on and done wonderful things involved in politics.
Oh, that's amazing. Obviously, the programs are really working then.
We are very proud of our programs and how they are getting the students engaged in the political process.
As Americans, we like to know how we can become better citizens. Obviously, we need to understand how the government works. But why is that important?
It's important because government is in your daily life. Everything we do is either regulated, inspected, it provides public safety, it provides social services. And so the more we know about government and the political process, the more we'll be involved and the more we'll be active in the future.
Yeah, here on Access News, I've always said that the more people know, the better decisions that we can make, and I really strongly believe that. Do you believe in that as well?
Oh, Tamara, very definitely so.
Do you have any more upcoming projects that you'd like to discuss?
We just started a project called Turning Points, and it's a series of 12 videos. Again, you think we make a lot of videos. Well, we believe in narrative learning and learning through visually through videos. And once again, we have a series called Turning Points, which identifies those 12 key points in the U.S. Constitution that our whole nation was founded on, or we argued about and made significant crossroads within our country's history. And our pilot project has included search and seizure, for example, and we hire student actors, student screenplay. We're very fortunate because we're in the College of Communication. We have radio, television, film, RTF, as part of that. And so we use students as much as possible to do the script. And then we also use for example, Young Lawyers of Texas in order to check facts to make sure our case law is accurate. But again, curriculum will be tied, and high school students will be exposed to the Constitution through a video learning process.
If people in the Austin area would like to get involved, what's the best way for them to get involved with some of those projects?
Again, the projects are aimed at public education teachers in the curriculum in high school. I would encourage them to support the social studies, for one thing, in public education, because too often we neglect that subject area. But also the Institute, I think the more we spread our message, the more the public will respond. And so our goal is that.
Do you have any final thoughts or words that you'd like to add?
Well, Tamara, I'm so glad that you offered the opportunity for us to be here today, because this is a very important message, to be civically engaged in your community, to become involved, whether it's serving your church that you go to, your local social neighborhood organization, identifying those problems and getting involved. That's what our goal is, the involvement of the American citizenry in our government.
Thank you, Chuck, for being with us on Access News. You may learn more about the Annette Strauss Institute for Civic Participation at their website and at our website, accessnews.us, where you may ask questions and share your comments and opinions. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. One beautiful thing about America is that we, the people, have power. The more we know, the better decisions we make. For Access News, I'm Tamara, and that's Austin. What is the supreme law of the land here in the U.S.?
Do not litter. I'm telling you, the Native Americans would have been very disappointed in us.
Make money, don't steal, and as long as you're straight with everybody else, you should be all right. That's what I'm talking
about. The Congress? I don't know.
Freedom?
Maybe like giving back to your community and making sure that you leave everything as beautiful as you find it and making good use of everything.
Treat people as you want to be treated, I guess.
It's the Constitution.
Very good.
What is the supreme law of the land? The Constitution. Executive producers Dvorah Ben-Moshe, Ken Hurley. With funding from the John S. and James L. Knight Foundation through the Knight Community Information Challenge.
Supported by the Austin Community Foundation, fostering philanthropy in Austin for 35 years. The Austin Community Foundation, for now and forever. Created and written by Dvorah, Ben-Moshe, Ken Hurley. Hosted by Tamara, Suiter-Ocuto. Interpreter for Tamara, Suiter-Ocuto, Jennifer Stoker. Segment host for A More Perfect Union, Don Miller. Voicing for Don Miller, Ken Hurley. Crew. Producer Linda Latowski, Director Editor Orlando Lopez, 3D Animation Doug Gray, Technical Director Carla Saldana, Director of Photography Brian Blake, Assistant to the Producer Susan Harper, Original Music Aaron Jake, Camera Doug Gray, Tim O'Neill, Ross Wilsey, Production Sound Mixer Aaron Jakes, Teleprompter Operator Brandon Taj Mora. Additional crew, photographers Eve Granick, Dvorah Ben-Moshe, intern Brandon Taj Mora, additional interpreters Jacob Stacy, Tracy Hughley, Jessica Graves, website developed by Electric Leaf, Jonathan Braden, closed captioning provided by CPC, closed captioning and subtitle services. Special thanks to Susan Murnett, Lisa Williams, Mary Ben Ramsey, Monica Williams, Janice Kelklar, Paula Lang, Jeff Garvey. Claire Bugan, Bobby Guerrera, Russell Harvard, Cynthia Foss, Bill Stotesbury, Caitlin Mack, Yitzhak Ben-Moshe, Bobby Nord, Kenneth Gladish.
Hi, I'm Tamara, host of Access News. Join me as I talk with renowned scientists, community advocates, powerful business leaders, and politicians from both sides of the aisle. Chuck Courtney, speak up, speak out for civic engagement. Join me each Sunday at 1 p.m. on KLRU Austin for Access News, hands-on news.